Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a My2 Cents video for this week, for the week of April 27th to May 3rd, 2025, where I take a look at a couple of stories that caught my attention, excuse me, and give you my thoughts and my opinion about them. And we got 4 stories to cover, including Xbox, which just announced a recent price hike and all, a new update for the Nintendo Switch that at least some folks out there, depending on who you're asking, are not pleased with some of the update or something. We also have more information about Cyberpunk 2077 for the Switch 2, as apparently the developers did a sort of a video on it, a creator's video to be exact. Excuse me. And Gamestop seems to be in a little bit of hot water, particularly this one particular Gamestop, as there's a bit of a controversy surrounding them selling the Switch 2, and this has to do with bundles and everything. If you're interested in where I got the source of these information, links will be in the description of this video down below, so you can watch this on either YouTube or Patreon. And of course, timestamps will also be in the description of this video also as well, again, if you're watching this on YouTube or Patreon too. But before we get started, I like to do what I like to call the quick My2 Cents, stories that kind of caught my attention, but not going to go into a huge amount of details and all. The first one has to do with Nintendo of America president being asked about in regards to timing of the Switch 2's release date, though, which for many it was sort of interesting to see it not go, the original Switch 1 route, going release in May, as they're now aiming for the summer. They're looking at it as a time, that people will bring their Switch 2s with them on the go during the summer and everything, like that, though. So, when it comes to releasing these systems, there are some cases it's all right to release at this time. Others, like what we saw with GTA 6, which I will get to that there, some choose not to release their game during this time because they don't want to be overshadowed for basically like the big release or something like that. Although it is worth pointing out, though, that the Elder Scrolls Oblivion was released, and so was Claire Expedition 33, and so far Claire Expedition 33 seems to be doing very well, to be exact. So sometimes even with these big releases, they don't have the kind of impact that others may see it as, though. We also learned that Polygon has been sold to something called Valnet, with the majority of staff being laid off. I'm aware that people are mixed about Polygon in general. Some don't like their reporting, others don't mind at all. But regardless of what your view is, it is a bit unfortunate to hear some of the staff have been laid off. Hopefully these folks can find new jobs, especially given the market and everything like that where it is right now. So regardless of what your opinion about Polygon is, it is unfortunate to see some of these employees have been laid off, though. We also learned that the designer who worked at Platinum Games, that did games like, who designed, characters like Nier Automata and Astro Chain, has quit Platinum, has started a new game company. It's going to be interesting to see how this game company does and all. And of course, with Platinum Games, they seem to be hiring for another online action game. It seems that despite Babylon's Fall not doing very well for them, they are still Platinum's still trying to chase basically, that online, always online money train out there that a lot of developers have tried to aim for, particularly on the AAA side, though. I'm still mixed on them doing that, to be exact, though. Great that they're doing Ninja Gaiden 4 and all, and I'm looking forward to trying that game out when it comes out on Game Pass and all. But with a lot of talented folks and folks who have been there from the beginning now leaving, it throws into question Platinum Games' future in general, and them chasing this online game or these always online kind of approach. Well, we've seen how many developers have tried and have failed miserably, and we've seen how sometimes it could ruin or end a studio. Look at Concord, for example, on that one, though. So we'll see what happens with that. We also had the 20-minute deep dive or state of play looking at Borderlands 4 and all. And, I have my reservations about Randy Pitchford for plenty of reasons, ranging from his attitude to what happened with Alien Colonial Marines, though. But I don't deny I am a fan of the Borderlands series. Didn't see the movie, although from what I understand the movie was bad and everything. And this one I might be keeping an eye out as well. We know it's coming to the Switch 2, but we don't have a concrete release date for that version at this time. It's possible it could be released around the same time as the other versions, or it could be basically released late, maybe released after those versions came out. We've seen that happen before with games that come to the Switch 2, games that have a Switch 2 version as well. We also learned that supposedly one of the developers may have slipped out some news about a massive remake, to be exact. This was at a Comic-Con in Italy and all, and many are pointing out that they could have slipped out the possibility that a Chrono Trigger remake could be in the works. Now, granted, Square Enix has not said anything at this time, so it remains to be seen if this is true. But if it is, let's just say for argument's sake, it's a remake of Chrono Trigger. It remains to be seen if it's either going to go down the HD 2D route, which I certainly would not be against and everything like that, or are we looking at possibly a full 3D remake though? So it will be very interesting to see if this rumor turns out to be true, and if so, and if it is Chrono Trigger, it'll be interesting to see what route they decide to take. And last but not least though, we have officially learned that Grand Theft Auto 6 has been delayed into 2026. This was the news that broke on Friday and all, and I would say I'm not completely shocked at the fact that it got delayed into 2026 though. I mean, it wasn't out of the realm of possibility it could have come out this year and all, but I wasn't surprised if it got delayed, and this was like, yeah, I'm not surprised. But with this game with Grand Theft Auto 6 being delayed into 2026 though, it's clear it will give a lot of other developers an opportunity that want to release their game this year and not have, GTA 6 hanging over their heads and all. So, I mean, it is a bit unfortunate indeed though, but supposedly the date would be I believe it was either April or May. I have to double check. But it'll be very interesting if Rockstar hits that release date and all. So we'll have to wait and see. Supposedly there are reports that the staff at Rockstar, they weren't thinking that this game was going to be out this year and everything like that. And there were reports that that Take-Two stock kind of went down because of this announcement. But, I'm not shocked though. I mean, I'm a little disappointed it's got delayed into 2026. Yeah, but it's not something I'm losing entirely sleep over. And in the movie and TV show part of the quick My2 Cents, we are learning from the direct of an article that seems to indicate some Marvel actors are going to make their way into the DC reboot that James Gunn is, spearheading and everything like that. Some of them have already made an appearance, especially I think one who plays, the Red Star in upcoming Thunderbolt, which I'm planning to see this weekend. I think he voiced, the Frankenstein in Creatures Commando, which I really enjoyed that series and everything like that. And other actors and actresses are making an appearance in it. And it's kind of interesting, especially some that are bouncing between DC and Marvel and all. We also learned that in January 2026, filming will start, I believe January 2026, filming will start on the second season of Shogun. I'm sure most of you I think it was last year. I think that show really blew up. Some refer to it as sort of like Game of Thrones with a samurai setting to a certain degree, and I kind of can see that comparison and all. I'm very curious to see how season 2 is going to play out though. Obviously, the series is based off, I believe, just one book that was only made, so this one's going to be very interesting, and I'm looking forward to when season 2 comes out. We also are learning about the box office projections for this week for the upcoming Marvel movie Thunderbolt, which, as I mentioned earlier, I'm planning to go see that over the weekend. Currently, right now, it's sitting at, the estimate is targeting a $75 million for the opening weekend. There has been reports that it made, I think a midnight opening on Thursday and all made like 11 million. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one does though. It's certainly gotten positive reviews so far, so it does seem to have there's a chance this one might do well, but we'll see what happens. I mean, with Captain America Brave New World, there were reports that it did better than they thought in terms of box office, but then dropped off a bit. So it's going to be very interesting to see how well Thunderbolt will do this weekend though. Hopefully I'll do a review and have it up, I'm hoping Wednesday, but we'll see to be exact. And last but not least, we are learning a report about Jeremy Renner and basically how he has turned down a season 2 for basically Hawkeye, mostly because he was offered half of his season 1 salary and all. He's still interested in doing the character and everything, but it doesn't seem like there may be some issues between him and Marvel and Disney, and it will remain to be seen if they choose to, if for some reason something can't be worked out, whether they choose to recast the actor who will play Hawkeye or not. So we'll see how this one plays out. Maybe something will come and they both will compromise and maybe we'll get to see a second season. But for right now, there's only one season of Hawkeye on Disney Plus though, and right now, because of apparently whatever issue Jeremy Renner's and Disney Marvel has though, it doesn't sound like we'll be seeing a second season of Hawkeye anytime soon, at least and all. Okay, with the Quick My2 Cent part now done, along with the movie and TV show part of the Quick My2 Cent, we'll get started with our first story, and this has to do with GameStop, particularly one GameStop store that was apparently under, let's just say, some hot waters over basically selling what they viewed, or what some are viewing, as a Switch 2 bundle. Now, we've seen this before with GameStop. They have basically sold bundles where basically you can buy a system and you can add certain games here and there, to be exact though. And in a way, I'm not completely against the idea of it though. I'm not against the idea of adding like a bundle and everything like that. I've seen one with a PS5 that added Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and some accessories here and there. So I'm not completely against the idea. But I do think that should remain as an optional choice for consumers. I think consumers should be the ones to decide whether they want to pay for that bundle or not. It's got to be their choice though. And to force them to buy the bundle and all, I do view that as a very much an anti-consumer practice to a certain degree. And well, recently one person posted a tweet out there that apparently claimed that a certain GameStop was doing this, and this certainly caught the attention of supposedly the GameStop X, formerly known as Twitter account, attention as well. The article here is from Nintendo Life, but they mentioned this from excuse me, a report over of the shortcut. It reads that, quote, an Emmy Award winning auto engineer has taken to social media to call out his local GameStop store, which he claimed to have been attempting to force expensive Switch 2 bundles on its consumers in an attempt to cash in on the high demand for the console in the US. As first reported over at the shortcut, Elon Solow, if I'm saying his name correctly, I apologize, who has worked as an auto engineer on the likes of MTV's recent Family Legacy and won an Emmy as part of the sound team on the Daily Mail, posted that his local GameStop in Astoria, or Astoria, New York, was forcing unwanted screen protectors and other such accessories on customers who have rocked up hoping to secure one of the small amount of units available at launch. So this is what the person wrote. He said, and I quote, "So this GameStop is forcing you to buy bundles, case, screen protectors, etc. They're claiming they can't process the SKU just for the console, but we all know what's going on here. Personally, I wanted Donkey Kong and a screen protector, so it isn't a big deal. Others are leaving." And following that tweet, though, they also reported that GameStop's help social media account weighed in to reassure those affected at the store that things would be put right. And this is what GameStop Help basically had to say. Quote, "We are actively investigating this. Any customer who was turned away at the ASTORIA location should reach out via DM so we can make it right." Now, I do want to stress and say, as I said before, I don't have a problem if this is an optional choice. If it's something available and consumers like what they're offering in the bundle and they want to pay the money for it, then that's fine. But, as I said, I do not agree with the fact that consumers should be forced to buy the bundle if they choose not to buy it at all. And I think that was a very, very scummy move for this GameStop to do. Although it is worth pointing out, GameStop has been under fire in the past with some claims of them doing something similar like this before. Now, we do not know how widespread it is. It could be just this one GameStop, but still, that's not good for GameStop in general to have this kind of thing, especially with the high demand right now for the Switch 2 and all. So if what this person is saying is true, then yeah, I do not agree with what this GameStop was doing at all. I think it is wrong, and it's definitely anti-consumer indeed. So overall, as I said before, fine if it's an optional choice, but not fine when it's basically you're forcing consumers to pay this amount of money for a bundle that they may not be interested into at all and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with the Switch 2 version of Cyberpunk 2077, as the developers kind of weighed in on something based off of a creator's video that they did with Nintendo and all. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my 2 Cents video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Cyberpunk 2077, especially the Switch 2 version, as more information, even more stuff came out and everything. Now, this was a game that was announced during the Switch 2 Direct, and one that kind of surprised me a little bit though, because it was certainly interesting to hear that a game like this was making its way over to the Switch 2. What even made it more amazing was not only was CD Projekt Red the one working on the Switch 2 version compared to what we saw when Witcher 3 Wild Hunt was released on the Switch back in 2019, and that was handled by Saber Interactive. And of course, the fact that they are now squeezing the entire game into a 64-bit gigabyte cartridge, Switch 2 cartridge, which I will admit that really does put a lot of developers to shame, especially for those who are using the game key cards, that a company like CD Projekt Red can put Cyberpunk 2077, which many consider which was a graphically demanding game, and manage to squeeze it into the Switch 2 64 gigabyte cartridge though. So yeah, it is definitely impressive to hear that, and props to CD Projekt Red. Well, recently this week, a video came out that was on Nintendo of America's YouTube website, or Nintendo of America's YouTube page and all, and it had more information coming from CD Projekt Red about some of the stuff that they were doing with Cyberpunk 2077 for the Switch 2 version and all. In the article from Video Game Chronicles, it reads that, quote, in the latest Nintendo series of creators' voice videos on its YouTube channel, the Polish studio shared more direct feed gameplay of the Ultimate Edition of the game coming to Switch 2 at launch, though. In the video, it also explains the Switch 2 Joy-Con controllers that could be used by players to fight with the Katana sword. CD Projekt Red's Vice President of Technology explained in the video that while at its core it's the same Cyberpunk 2077, players already know the Switch 2 hardware makes it the best handheld version of the game. This is what this person had to say. Quote, it's still the same amazing experience, and I think the returning players will feel right at home. That being said, we've done a lot of ways to experience the game using the controller. We have the new amazing LDC screen with VRR support, and I do think it's the best way to experience the game on the go. The PC version of Cyberpunk 2077 can't be played on other handheld systems such as the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally, but the Switch 2 version makes it the first time CD Projekt Red has made a port specifically aimed at a handheld device, though. Last week, studio engineer Tim Green said that Switch 2 hardware had made it possible to create a more capable version of Cyberpunk 2077 that was possible on the PS4 and Xbox One. Cyberpunk 2077 notoriously struggled to run well on the last gen console at launch, and its expansions was released only on the PS5 and Xbox Series console, but will be available in the Switch 2 version. They said developer still had the challenge, of course, as any development of any development process does, but we've been careful in picking trade-offs to not compromise the game's vision. We hadn't had to fight with fitting into memory, he added, and the speed of the data storage had helped alleviate some of those early streaming problems. This allowed us to focus our attention on improving other things, and we're very happy with the results. Now, I am definitely looking forward to trying this game out when it comes to the Switch 2. I believe when the game comes out on June 5th, though. The Joy-Con part is probably the one area I'm not really 100% sure about. As you're probably aware, with the Joy-Cons, though, you can play like either with, the IRM, like with the pointing, like you may have done with the Wii back in the day, to the idea of using it as sort of like a mouse, kind of like, the mouse and keyboard kind of approach. So that certainly is very interesting indeed, though. That said, however, I'm not sure about the idea with them using the katana sword or no, in terms of using the Joy-Cons. I mean, it might work, but I just can't help but shake the feeling it probably will be just like, you wiggle the Joy-Cons like this and that to swing the sword around and everything like that. I could be wrong, and CD Projekt Red could surprise us or something, but I seriously have doubts that's what's going to happen, though. But time will tell when the game ultimately comes out and everything like that. I am hoping that this game does well, though, when it does come out for the Switch 2. It is definitely, I do feel that the developers are doing a good job with this, and the fact that they're squeezing the entire game into a 64GB cartridge is definitely impressive. And assuming how well the game does, I do think it opens the door to the possibility that Witcher 4 could make its way over to the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, granted, nothing's been confirmed at this time, though, and it's too early to tell if that is even going to happen or not. So I don't want to rush in and say Witcher 4 is coming to the Switch 2. But if, say, Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition does well on the Switch 2, I do think it kind of opens the door to that possibility and all. Just like I do think that it's not out of the realm of possibility that Grand Theft Auto 6 could make its way to the Switch 2. We've seen impossible ports before, but again, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but like I said, time will ultimately tell. But overall, the more I see about Cyberpunk 2077 for the Switch 2, the more I am definitely looking forward to trying that game out on the Nintendo Switch 2 and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3, and this one has to do with the Switch update that has come out, and what many would view as the last update for the Switch 1 before the Switch 2 officially is released. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of my 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at supposedly the latest update for the Nintendo Switch, particularly the Switch 1, and what seems to be not only the last update, but looks like getting everything prepared for when the Switch 2 comes out on June 5th and all. So, this is an interesting update, as it did reveal a couple of things, though, including one being the virtual game keys or game card and everything like that, which I thought was kind of interesting indeed. But the update also brings up the opportunity for you to transfer your data to the Switch 2 for those who basically are picking up the Switch 2 and everything like that. Anyway, according to what it points out, it reads that has been added to the home menu. This is version 2.20.0.0. It reads that purchase Nintendo Switch digital softwares and DLCs and some free softwares are now virtual game cards in display in the listed menu. You can virtually load and eject virtual game cards between up to 2 Nintendo systems. Virtual game cards can be linked to others in the same Nintendo family account. They have a virtual game card guide. They have Game Share, which is compatible software can be shared from a Nintendo Switch 2 system to other nearby systems to play together. They only point out this can only be played local wirelessly. They have now a user verification setting has been added, which they now say that you can restrict access to virtual game cards menu by requiring entry of a PIN or sign into your Nintendo account. They've added online licensing settings when saying would turn on. You can play downloadable software or DLCs you purchase while the system is connected to the internet, even if you don't have the virtual game card loaded. They pointed out that the Nintendo eShop and the Nintendo Switch New icon colors in the home menu have been changed. Not really anything huge on that one. The other one they point out is the basically system transfer to Nintendo Switch 2 has been added under system settings and system. They say, quote, you can perform a system transfer for your Nintendo Switch to the Nintendo Switch 2 using local communications. For users that will lose access to the Nintendo Switch before receiving their Switch 2, there is an option to upload your system transfer data to a dedicated server which can be retrieved on their Switch 2. After you upload your system transfer data to a dedicated server, the Nintendo Switch system will be initially to factory settings, so only perform this transfer if you're able to complete the transfer on the Nintendo Switch 2. If you want to continue using your Nintendo Switch until you have the Nintendo Switch 2, we recommend completing the system transfer using local communication after you have acquired a Nintendo Switch 2. An internet connection and Nintendo account is required to complete both local and server-based system transfer service. So obviously, like I said, this one adds some new features, but it's clear they're setting the stage for, when the Switch 2 comes out and everything. However, it does seem to indicate that some folks are having some issues, I think, with either the virtual game cards or particularly with the game sharing part. This is from an article from basically Video Game Chronicles, and it reads that saying, quote, oops, let me fix that. Okay, there we go. It's saying, players are now reporting that this new, they talked about the virtual load inject game cards, says, players are now reporting that this new system prevents two users with their own Switch consoles from playing the same digital games online at the same time, something that was possible before. In the past, Switch games brought using a main player's primary console could be played by any other's account signed in on that console, including online. The main player could then sign into a secondary console and install the game there too. The idea was that if the main player signs into the secondary console and another family member is using their own account on that primary console, both could play the main player's purchased digital game online at the same time. The change to virtual game cards no longer makes this possible because there's no longer primary or secondary console. Now digital games are treated like physical cartridge, means they could technically only be active on one system at a time. There's a potential workaround to this to some extent, as reported by users on Reset Era. The primary and secondary system is now based on the virtual game cards themselves, meaning the console with the card installed is the primary one, and the console without it is the secondary one. There's also a new online licensing setting, which when turned on, allows players to play, download software or DLC they bought when their console is online, even if they don't have a virtual game card loaded. Because of this, if the console with the virtual game cards installed is played offline, airplane mode, the second console can load the game with the online license, meaning two separate accounts can play the same game at the same time. Due to online checking, however, they can no longer play the same game online at the same time. They also point out, though, when the Switch 2 is released, this issue would be resolved for some games with the new Game Share feature. This allows Switch 2 users to share specific games with other Switch or Switch 2 via local wireless, and both players will then be able to play online together. So, a little bit iffy for those who were really wanting to take advantage of this feature and everything like that. It does sound like they might address this for the Switch 2, but a little disappointed with the Switch 1 part, although there's been reports Nintendo might be working on something, And recently they may have put out maybe a patch or something for update, the latest update, because there have been some reports that users are having a hard time and everything. So it certainly is a mixed bag on some of the things, but clearly Nintendo is trying to gear up as many as possible when the Switch 2 officially comes out. Hopefully, a lot of these issues that some people may be complaining about are resolved by the time the Switch 2 comes out, though, because I think the last thing Nintendo wants is to have people, really start complaining if there are certain features like the game share isn't working as well on the Switch 2 and everything. So overall, interesting update that's being put out. However, there does seem to be some issues that have been with this latest update coming out, and I'm hoping by the time the Switch 2 comes out, this issue gets resolved and all. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to our fourth and final part, and this one has to do with Microsoft raising the price for the Xbox consoles and everything. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our fourth and final part of our My2 Cents video. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Xbox, particularly the announcement made this week, or at least on Friday, that they are officially raising the price and everything like that. Now, this generation, unfortunately, when it comes to consoles, has seen some of its share of controversies so far, though. We've seen ranging from decisions like Sony re-releasing some old games and everything like that, to some questioning Microsoft's latest third-party approach and everything. But we've also seen some of the price for games have recently gone up itself, though. We saw what happened with, I think, Tears of the Kingdom, that was raised to $70 and all. And of course, when the Switch 2 was officially revealed, some of the controversy was surrounding the price of the system and everything, although most of that anger seemed to be mostly aimed at Mario Kart World being $80 and everything like that. Well, it seems as though coming off of their record-breaking results, or the latest earnings that Microsoft has revealed, which seems to be Game Pass seems to be going up, to basically hardware being down, to their gaming division doing very well. Following that, it seems as though Microsoft kind of pissed off a lot of folks, depending on who you're asking, that unfortunately they are raising the price for their systems and their games and accessory and everything like that. In an article from Pure Xbox, it reads that, quote, Microsoft has announced that the cost of consoles, games, and accessories will be going up across multiple regions starting today. This includes an $80 price hike for the Xbox Series S, a $100 price hike for the Xbox Series X in the US, though. Additionally, some upcoming first-party games will now be launching at an increased price of $79.99, $80 here in the US. They basically say, quote, we will adjust the price for some of our new first-party games starting this holiday season to $79.99. This update will apply to the physical and digital version. That said, different games and expansions will continue to be offered at varieties of price points, though. They basically pointed out, like the Xbox Series S 512 gigabyte will be at $379.99. The Series S 1 terabyte at $429.99. Series X at $600, though. Xbox Series X Digital being at $550, and the Xbox Series X 2 terabyte Galaxy Black Special Edition could be at the price at $730. They pointed out, some of the accessories like the wireless controller we'll see at $65 and all. According to what Microsoft is saying, quote, Microsoft said that it's understanding these changes are challenging for Xbox fans, and they were made with careful considering given the market condition and the rise in cost of development. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if tariffs were a factor into this and everything like that. Regions with currency that haven't been listed by the company today are still getting increased, although we don't know to what extent. Fortunately, there's no sign of a price increase for Xbox Game Pass as things stand, which that might be true, And I think with Game Pass, it might add some value to the cost of some of these games, though. However, I would not be shocked if Game Pass sees a price increase, though. Unfortunately, given the current economic conditions and the whole situation surrounding tariffs, I will say that while I am extremely disappointed to this, it's not surprising to hear basically see some of the stuff go up. Some could argue that it is certainly greed, and I certainly would not disagree with that, though. But I would not be surprised if tariffs were actually a factor in, since a lot of the stuff, some of this, or a good amount of the stuff, could be manufactured in China, though. It's probably one of the reasons why Nintendo moved when the Switch 2 was being developed, from China to Vietnam. Although it remains to be seen how long that is going to last for the Switch 2, which it would not surprise me if the situation changed and it goes up from the original $450 at launch at this time. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, a lot of things, gaming is while it is an enjoyable hobby, it's also become a very expensive hobby, though. And it will be very interesting to see what impact Microsoft making this decision will have with basically when their next fiscal quarter earnings comes out and all. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see even more of a price hike for the PS5 or the PS5 Pro, or even if the PS6, when that comes out, though, how much that might cost. It could be really expensive and everything like that. So, excuse me. So yeah, not great news, especially making this announcement coming off of your latest earnings report, though. It gives the impression that you are being greedy and everything like that. So I can see why not everybody is happy about this. It'll be very interesting to see what impact this will have for Microsoft, like I said, going forward and all. So overall, great that their earnings report was good. However, this announcement was not great for a lot of folks. To me, this is just as bad as when Microsoft closed down Tango Gameworks, although they got revived and purchased by another firm and everything like that. But yeah, unfortunately, the sad and unfortunate part that we're seeing right now is gaming has become an expensive hobby, and some folks out there who want to continue with that hobby may have to find ways to tighten their belts a little bit if they want to continue with it, though. And I do not see prices for this stuff going down anytime soon, at least in the current situation we are with the economy and tariffs and all. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about this, what this one Gamestop was doing with Switch 2 in terms of creating a situation that the Switch 2 is only available in bundles and all? Do you view this as an anti-consumer practice in any way? Do you think this GameStop should be investigated? Do you think this situation is widespread, or do you think it's just only limited to this one GameStop in general and all? What are your thoughts about the latest information coming out about the Switch 2 version of Cyberpunk 2077? Are you still looking forward to basically getting the Switch 2 and all, or the Switch 2 version in any way? Are you going to pass the Switch 2 version altogether and all? Are you impressed with what CD Projekt Red is doing with Cyberpunk 2077? What are your thoughts about this latest Switch update in any way? Have you had any issues with this update? Has this impacted your Switch 1 or anything like that? And do you think this is just setting the stage for what we could expect to see on the Switch 2? What are your thoughts about the price hike that Xbox is doing right now? Was this something you are not surprised seeing, or are you kind of shocked to see this happen in any way? Do you think it's either corporate greed, or do you think it's the tariffs, or do you think it's a mixture of both that may have led to this situation that Microsoft is doing? And do you think we could see Nintendo and Sony possibly follow suit at some point down the road? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal me or Patreon or Steam Labs. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you watch this on YouTube or Patreon. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye.